We're just thrilled to release the 2023 vintage of Sauvignon Blanc. This was just a picture perfect growing year. We could not ask for better. Nice, slow, even ripening, no real scary heat spikes, really nice solid yield, not overcropped, not undercropped. It just gave us the most beautiful fruit to work with. What's a little different about us is we spend a tremendous amount of time in the vineyard with Sauvignon Blanc, probably more than any other grower that I know of, because we really feel like if we don't get it right in the vineyard, we're not doing much winemaking intervention and don't want to in order to preserve the natural aromas and flavors. So we've got to get it right in the vineyard so that we have the best raw material possible. So we go through and do a lot of judicious leaf thinning and cluster thinning. So with the leafing, it's not about stripping the fruit zone and creating as much sunlight to the clusters as possible. In fact, just the opposite. We're looking for more of a dappled effect. We find that if there's too much exposure in the fruit zone, sun exposure, that we end up baking out all of those aromas and flavors that make our wine more unique. So we bake out the tropical fruit, and so that what remains is citrus, and that's great and lovely. But I think what makes our wine great is that we have more going for it than that. So those thiols that bring the tropical fruit aromas and flavors really benefit from a little bit of shade and leaf canopy. So we're really judicious about that. We also go through and drop clusters, so we're not trying to overcrop. Again, we've all had a Sauvignon Blanc that might smell great and seem promising, and then sort of lacks some concentration in the middle. That's just classic overcropping, and so you've got to drop some clusters on the ground so that the energy goes to the remaining clusters and you get some concentration and depth of flavor. So after all of that, then we make it even more challenging by picking at night, and we do that. We set the tractors up with big lights, and we do that to keep the fruit nice and cold. And even on a relatively cool morning, if a half-ton picking bin is sitting there with Sauvignon Blanc in it, it will begin to warm up in that bin, and the ambient temperature of the fruit in that bin could be 10, 15, even 20 degrees warmer than the ambient temperature outside. And then we have lost aroma compounds, we've lost flavor compounds, and we're having to add acid once it gets to the winery and cool it down once it gets to the winery. So lose all the way around. So instead, we pick at night, and here in Sonoma County, at night in the Russian River Valley, it can be 50 degrees, 55 degrees. So we pick at night, it gets to the winery at around 5 in the morning, the fruit's 55 degrees, perfectly intact, hasn't begun to break down in the bins, and the team has just perfect Sauvignon Blanc clusters to work with that have retained all their aroma and flavor compounds and all of their acidity. So all of those things happen out in the vineyard before we get to the winemaking piece. And once we get to the winery, it's really about not pressing too hard. There's bitterness that can happen in Sauvignon Blanc when you press too hard. So we're more gentler on the Sauvignon Blanc than others might be. And then we do a little malolactic fermentation in tank, depending on the vintage, just to round out the edges, but without creating any buttery quality at all, or even creamy quality. We're just looking to round the edges on the Sauvignon Blanc. We've got plenty of natural acidity. We try not to add acidity because, gosh, I can always tell. So it's really about what we do in the vineyard primarily. And this vintage is so delicious. So, beautiful tropical fruit flavors, great core of Sauvignon Blanc and lime. There's a great kind of limeade quality to this. And big punchy flavors, great acidity, zingy, long, really nice long finish. So this is just the classic Hanna Sauvignon Blanc style that we try to emulate year after year after year, because when we're going to scale a wine like this, it's got to be consistent vintage to vintage. And the nice thing about having this Lesser Road Vineyard since the early 90s, and Jeff Hinchliff making wines for us since 1988, is we have consistency on our side. So cheers and enjoy.